This is the RPM Podcast, starring Eric Brennan.
The least knowledgeable sports talk person that I've ever heard.
Eric Graham.
He's notoriously fussy.
Sam Ballard Jr.
He has no idea what he's talking about.
Nick Rendo.
He falls asleep while he's on the air.
And Josh Matthews.
The only time he ever goes viral is when he looks like a buffoon.
And now, back to the show.
No, definitely doing it.
We're doing it.
Can't wait, dude.
We're doing it.
And you guys are doing it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the RPM Podcast. Performing today in front of a live studio audience, we got Hannah DiMartino and Willie Davis in the house. Willie's got a headset
I just found
on.
out is like the coolest person in the world.
Which one, Hannah or Willie?
And definitely Willie, yeah.
I don't understand why Hannah has no mic.
Shots fired. Shots fired.
She's loud enough she doesn't need one.
That's touche. Also, Josh Matthews, Sam Ballard Jr.,
tried,
Nick
Hannah.
Rendo, and I'm, of course, Eric Brennan.
I tried.
So I am like 4 hours late, so everybody's mad at me.
So much for 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Oh, all right, so 3.5 hours late. Not so bad. I'm sorry, first of all. So because of that, I'm just going to kind of wing this whole thing, so you're all going to have to deal with that because I probably won't
Wait,
be
he's
accurate.
late and he's giving us...
Well, he doesn't know.
Wait,
There are some notes. Oh, he doesn't have his laptop.
No, I came bare.
Oh,
Oh, wait.
Nope.
Hang on, Josh. Wasn't there a question we wanted to ask him?
I don't remember.
What's her name?
Oh,
No. Yeah, it's the Parsippany fire inspector. That's what her name is. So it's such a mess. So work related, folks.
It's a good thing I wasn't there.
Now,
someone has to work the corners.
tomorrow's gonna be worse.
No, I was just saying because I'm on fire.
Now, something that wasn't on fire was pretty much every race that took place at Pocono this weekend.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah, I agree.
Now, I think what the sport
You're on edge, Nick.
he is. Yeah, everybody's pissed because I'm late. I get it. All right, so we're gonna blow right through this as fast as we can and have some fun.
You know what I'm pissed about?
No, we are
that
gonna have
Kyle
some fun.
Busch won this week, and he didn't win Indianapolis.
So that's true.
Because I picked him for Indy.
I don't even remember who I picked. I don't remember the race this weekend.
What color
because-
underwear are you wearing right now? Oh, no, you don't wear underwear. My bad.
No, because we're going to end up
do, but I
talking
don't
about...
remember.
Actually, Eric Brennan has used my employee discount to get his underwear.
I need more, by the way.
Oh, I'm down, dude. Anytime.
I do.
Anyway, Kyle Busch won.
What kind of show is
Wait, come on.
I work at Calvin Klein, so
Kyle Busch
Wait,
wins.
so where's
Kyle
mine?
Busch.
Alright.
Kyle Busch
Maybe
wins
I'll-
Pocono. Kyle Busch wins Pocono.
we don't sell
in a
ones.
dominant fashion. Bumps
No.
Kevin Harvick out of the way.
Well, I was listening to. I
what was
started
that?
listening to a few other podcasts over the last few weeks just to kind of hear what they sound like, and I got to give credit where credit is due. Eric Graham was right. I try to button this thing up a little bit too much because if you listen to Earnhardt Jr.'s Dirty Mo Radio
Did I tell him
podcast
this?
or something like that, or the Marshall Pruitt podcast, which we're going to talk about in the next segment. It's just really dry and just off the cuff type stuff, like what I'm trying to do here now.
So let's talk about underwear.
So, but I was listening to Junior stuff, and he was saying that the 78 and the 18, they weren't a couple tenths faster all race. They were 3/4 of a second faster than everybody the whole race. It was pretty much just them two throughout the entire race. The only reason why Clint Boyer won segment 2 is because they pulled off some strategy, and that was pretty much the only storyline.
He was my
throughout the
pick
whole
for this
race.
weekend.
Boyer. That would have been solid.
It was a strategy game, but I don't think strategy is exciting. I mean, it can make it a little tense, but I don't think it's exciting. Is that fair?
I agree because the thing is, I didn't see the race. I had a prior commitment for a friend's party or something like that. And then
You
I had
didn't miss
another
much.
party, and
So
that
I
was
pulled
the thing.
the
I
NBC
tried,
Sports app up on my phone.
I did for about 20 laps. I saw the lap
Okay.
1 wreck, and then after that, I was just like, I can't keep up with this. And then
Whoa, Eric
Shots
Brennan
to the
not
flanks.
liking a race?
well, that it's not that I wasn't enjoying it, but
Well, on the
now-
heels
but
of that
here's the
exciting
thing.
Indy race, I mean,
Well, Nick Rendo likes it because there's no passing at Pocono. That's why he liked it. It was a real man's race.
NASCAR usually puts together a highlight package on the YouTube channel, so I try to watch that. Indy was 5 minutes long. Pocono was 1minute 20 seconds long because
As long as you last-
nothing
never
really
mind.
happened.
honestly, we just listened to the Radioactive while we were waiting, in those hours for you to get here, and the Radioactive was only about 5 minutes long. It was longer for Indy.
Right, because it just seemed like there wasn't the strategy was a big deal. Apparently, if you were watching the race live, you weren't sure of what the exact outcome was going to be. And I mean, I did in fact tune in when Busch. Here's the thing: I was surprised to find out Busch did bump Harvick out of the way, as you said, Sam. Harvick never led a lap. Harvick took the lead from Hamlin and
Hashtag-
got moved out of the way on the same lap, and he never actually crossed the stripe.
Bad luck, Brian.
I didn't figure this out till Monday when I was looking at the lap leaders on the race and everything. That was the most exciting thing that happened in that whole race. And that's all you could take away from it. We knew Kyle Busch was going to win eventually. We knew that was going to happen. Like, it just had to happen.
Yeah. Unless he blew up or something like that, it was.
Yeah, that time was going to come, so he locks himself into the playoffs. So what is that, the 14th different winner on the season, but only the 13th that factors into the chase because Logano's still
10
out?
10 straight different race winners in NASCAR now.
That's pretty crazy.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, what is it? There's how many spots left in the chase?
Three on wins. But now, if you have more than 3 different winners,
how
then
many
you're going to
races
start
are
bumping guys out who have, I think, 4 or 5.
Excuse me?
How many races left till
I thought it was 5 and 3.
I think it's 5. Well, let me see if I can rattle off.
I thought it was 3 spots, 5 races.
Richmond, Darlington, Bristol,
Watkins Glen,
Michigan. 5.
But
5.
if you were to have 5 different, I mean, my understanding of the rules was a win guaranteed you a spot in the playoffs.
Yeah, but the problem is that if there's
only
more
the
than
top 16.
Yeah, and
So-
points-wise, so they take the top 16 in points
So,
after that.
so a win does not guarantee you a spot. You have to have a win and
No.
and-
Up there in the points.
But if you're like Joey
Yeah.
Logano, you wish it did because well, no, you wish that they don't all win because he's pretty much up there in points after the Eric Jones penalty today. They handed down the L1 penalty for Eric Jones for the rear of the car.
Yeah, I did see that, and you also lost Chris Gale for 2 races, which is probably a big deal because Jones is one of those guys who hasn't won yet this season, who probably needs to in order to get himself back in there now. And that's the crazy thing. We talk about all these different winners. They get the guys that haven't won yet. You have guys like Matt Kenseth, Dale Earnhardt Jr.,
5 races
Joey
left.
Logano did. There we go. Logano did win, but he kind of has to win again to try to get in. Eric Jones and Chase Elliott's name is starting to come up. Jamie McMurray's name is starting to come up as guys who may have to get a win in these next 5 races. AJ Allmendinger's another one, and you got to think about him as we go to Watkins Glen. The pressure's on, and that's why I kind of love this format. But it didn't produce that, plus the stage racing, plus the 400-mile reduction that they put in place at Pocono over the last couple of years. Just didn't do it for me this past Sunday. And it's not because I was zoned out on the race. Like, I was mad that I wasn't in front of my living room TV when I missed Indy.
You know what
because
did it
of how
for me this
crazy
weekend, though?
I didn't care about Pocono.
Ryan Preece winning an Xfinity race.
That was the story of the weekend. In
well,
fact,
for the local people.
I'll cycle it back to the Dale Earnhardt Jr. podcast I listened to today while my first stage of trying to draw. You want to talk about stage racing? I had different stages of trying to get here today.
Dude, I have sector times on the way to work. Like, Sector 1 is going to, like, Route 35. Then you got the middle roads, and Sector 3 is all Parkway.
Yeah, so
it's awesome.
In my first stage, I listened to that Earnhardt Jr. thing, and he said, the thing
You
with
need a
Ryan
life,
Preece
Nick.
is it really is one for the good guys. Former Turkey Derby winner, modified standout, elected to kind of scale back his Xfinity Series schedule. And,
My
and
hashtag
go
game on
all
these
in.
notes are so strong right now, and you don't have a freaking computer in front of you.
I'm gonna have to take a look at it. Sometimes I have to.
I just read what you wrote for the second
Hashtag
segment.
Wall
Hashtags
Bills
are really
champions. They are pretty good. They usually are really good. Some of them are borderline FCC violations, but these are pretty good.
Danica Patrick. Did you just ask who Danica is?
No. It was moving like on the screen.
Oh, Josh.
Oh, Josh
Anyway.
controls everything. If you're new to the RPM podcast, Hannah, which you're not, you should know
I'm
this
not,
by
but,
now.
Like, I didn't know he had like a little mouse over there.
Oh, my God.
Nevertheless,
What doesn't he have?
back to Preece.
Wow.
The term that everybody keeps using is he bet on himself, right? And I mean,
I love
don't,
that term.
I don't know if I'm brave enough to do that. If I can convince
No, you're
somebody
not.
to, and you know what? Here, well, I can let you chime in on this. Like, you're a race car driver, and you're somebody who's been trying to scrap up enough money in the race as much as you can. Are you confident enough as a racer that you can go to somebody and say, hey, if you put your name on my car, I'll do the best that I can for you in X amount of time to try to give you a return on your investment? Like, is that something that you need to be confident enough to do? Like, is that normal?
Yeah, big time.
Because that's essentially what Preece did. He basically said, he went to Gibbs, I have enough money to run 2 races. Give me a shot. I'll make it worth your while. And he averages a 1.5 finish in 2 races. You won't.
crazy.
Aside from winning them both, you can't do that.
I believe
you can't do better than that.
I believe the offer for Preece was you can either run like 5 or 6 races with a lower tier team, like a second tier team,
Right.
or run 2 races with a bigger team.
That's exactly what it was, actually.
Yeah, so you have to find that bigger
Fun
team
fact, I know my
to
stuff.
take you in. And then, lo and behold, it comes down to him and another kid who's trying to make the best of his opportunity, Kyle Benjamin, who's running just a handful of races for Gibbs as well. That was a great last few laps that they had, those guys. It turned out to be, you could almost call it a photo finish. They were almost side by side at the end.
I enjoy Ryan Preece. I think he's a great race car driver, and I'm glad that he actually got the opportunity that he deserved in a good car.
Well, here's the thing. Priest's name is synonymous, yes, on a national level, but primarily on the Northeast. Like, primarily
Over
up
there.
here is where, everybody, like, Priest is nearly a household name for an auto racing fan up here. So I'm happy that somebody of his caliber and his talent has now reached a national level where maybe not just fans, but maybe sponsors or potential sponsors who may be located in the Midwest or out on the West Coast could kind of see this guy for what he is, look up what he's done in like a modified and on the rest of his racing resume, maybe give him the shot that he kind of deserves.
He's been racing on national level for a really long time with the Modified Tour. Then he was Xfinity when he won the Turkey Derby 2 years ago.
Yeah,
it's just now he's finally getting the credibility.
And that's the thing. The Modified Tour, even though it is the NASCAR Modified Tour, it is kind of an East Coast, primarily Northeast Coast thing. I mean, they go to Thompson and Stafford, like 7 times a year amongst those 2 tracks in
I'm not
Connecticut.
complaining.
You know, I mean,
Thompson's fantastic.
So it is, and hopefully, if everything goes to plan, I will see Stafford on Friday. So I'm looking forward to that. But it's primarily a Northeast. That's why they had the Southern Modified Tour, and then they kind of liquidated it, which even that was a Southeastern thing because the Modifieds on the West Coast look totally different.
It wasn't even like a Southeastern thing. It was like Virginia and North Carolina.
Yeah, and that was
and
it.
a little bit into South Carolina.
Well, if you look at the southern guys that race, it's bigger up here in the Modifieds. Late models are really big down south.
Yeah,
that and the IMSA mods are too.
Yeah.
So, but that's what they run out west.
What are you gonna do?
So Priest gets one for the good guys, and then if you go back to it was in fact all 3 NASCAR series were actually
Christopher Bell won another one for the good guys.
Yeah, that was win number 4.
I met him in
Truck
Eldora
4.
a few weeks ago. Great kid.
Really? I didn't know you got to meet Christopher Bell.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
My friend Jake and I walked right up to him.
I don't
Did
think
you also watch him win?
He's about yay big.
he is a little guy.
Oh, so he's like Hannah.
He's Hannah-sized.
Hannah, I'm not making fun of you. That's so funny. Anyway, no, Christopher Bell. I mean,
well, it looked like Kyle Busch had the truck to beat until pit strategy put him kind of in the middle of the pack, and then he got hooked by one of the newcomers. It might have been Justin Haley, the ARCA winner from Friday.
hate Kyle Busch or not, at Hannah, he has passion. He wants to win every race he straps into.
No, yeah, him and Samantha.
Yeah, well, he
have
won't
a
be able
lot
to
of
run that
passion,
many truck races next year.
Well,
that's right, because they have the new rule now, and Kyle Busch said, "Well, if this is how it's going to be, I'm going to take my ball and I'm going home."
Well, here's the so now you just kind of led into my next point. So that
You're welcome.
The
We're
thing,
about to take our ball and go to baby.
I'm trying to. Well, goodness, Twitter could be it could be amazing and awful at the same time. I go to pull up racing news and I see 2 sunbathers killed as plane lands on beach near Libsyn. Like, that's terrible. Anyway, the point. Sorry, that's shell shock because I'm not prepared. The point that Sam was making is that NASCAR had further reduced the rules for Cup competitors of over 5 years' experience to compete in the Xfinity Series. It went from 10 races to 7, and I believe from 7 races on the truck side down to 5. But further excluding the Dash for Cash races in the Xfinity Series and the playoff races in the Xfinity and Truck Series, which I think is what you had to do. You had to take those big-name guys out of those races.
You know what they should do? NASCAR should have a package deal for tickets where it's like $100 or $150 for all 3 races, and that's what you do, $50 per race.
Right.
Because we're not going to fill the grandstands anyway, so why don't we just sell them at a cheap price and put people in the grandstands? Because at the end of the day, if there's no people in the grandstands, there's going to be no sponsors.
Exactly.
Well, I think something that they did this weekend at Pocono, which they're going to do again at Watkins Glen, was they tried to kind of cut it down. They're calling it a 2-day show, but it's resulting in qualifying and racing on the same day.
Truly, the only people that like that are the drivers. The fans don't like it because now they're like, well, I'm not going to spend all this money on a 2-day ticket.
See, what you just said, Sam, was spot on as to what I heard Dale Earnhardt Jr. say. All the drivers.
We talked on the phone, Dale Jr. and I.
And
I told him his new paint scheme is ugly as hell.
It's kind of bizarre how spot on you are with that. All the drivers, the teams kind of like it, but the fans are the ones who are like, you know what? It used to be cool to kind of like, go into Friday and then know all day Saturday who the fastest guy was and who the man to beat was. Now, especially for somebody who didn't catch the race on Sunday, I don't remember who won the pole on Sunday. I have no idea.
The only thing that's cool about this is for guys like us, we're in Pocono. Now when we go for just the day, we have more to watch. You know what I'm saying? $75 for a ticket. Not only do we get to see the race, but we get to see qualifying.
I don't know. I think it's.
We probably should have did that when we were at Dover.
But I think that's where the issue's going. And I mean, we just had news earlier this week that Target's leaving NASCAR at the end of this year. and there's another Fortune
Well, there's a
500
reason
company.
for that. I mean, you see the guy that's driving their car.
Yeah.
How great he is.
Okay, we all know you hate him, but you gotta give his driving talent credibility.
No,
In fact,
Will,
one of the
It
hot
just keeps
rumors
glowing closer and closer to my heart every
I
time
would-
you open
I
his
would-
I
mouth.
mean, I'm not the biggest Kyle Larson fan, but he's
you
got
respect
talent.
him so
He's
much.
got talent.
He's so great.
But
Coming from one driver
although-
to another.
Although it may seem like a punch in the gut that perhaps a big Fortune 500 company like Target is backing out of the sport, the rumor is that a new sponsor, a potentially new big, like huge worldwide power is going to come in.
Like what?
And the name that is being thrown out is Amazon. Which,
wow.
nothing is set in stone yet. We've seen, big names be rumored to come into the Cup Series before. It seems like a good fit to me, and I think that if you could attract a company like Amazon into NASCAR, that could be a rather big deal.
The issue about all this is that NASCAR is being ran like a business rather than a sport now. And that's a big issue when it comes to the fans. Business points fine with the sponsors and all the tracks. Keep them happy, yes. But now look at the grandstands.
Yeah. But unless, I guess, if the industry continues to make money, whether or not the teams continue to make money, why would they change anything?
Wasn't
if
Watkins
the rich
Glen?
continue to get richer?
Didn't they sell out last year, Watkins Glen?
They did very well. And in fact, from
But
what
why
I've
is
heard,
that?
Pocono did quite well actually this weekend
Watkins
as well.
Glen has cheap tickets.
It does.
Cheaper tickets than the rest of the tracks on the circuit.
Although I'm
because
not
you get
sure,
to watch a turn, and then you have to like sit and look at your phone for another 2 minutes until they come back around.
Well,
Exactly.
Watkins Glen was one of the most fun times I ever had.
No,
in the
no, look,
grandstands
don't
of
get me
racetrack.
wrong. I like watching the Watkins Glen race, but I like watching it on TV. I've gone down to New Jersey Motorsports Park, and it's a great facility. We've run the go-karts there. I love everything that they do. But I went there for the ARCA race, and we sat down in turn one, and it was really cool. And then it was, what do you want to talk about until they come back around?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why
So I have
whenever
this
we go to the
podcast.
Canadian Grand Prix, we always actually on the website they say this seat has a jumbotron because it's so important. Of course,
Yeah,
the
right?
tickets are
Yeah,
$150 more,
See-
but it's so important.
Yeah, yeah.
to have.
And you can at least get to see the entire race.
Yeah,
And try to
exactly.
follow it,
Yeah.
or
Oh,
have
yeah.
a radio.
Yeah,
or
try and
something like
follow
that.
it.
Yeah.
You would never know.
But you see,
Exactly.
part of that issue is that NASCAR wasn't built on jumbotrons. They were built on short tracks where you can sit wherever you
They
want.
were built on a beach.
But you get what I'm saying, though?
Yeah, I do.
And that's the issue, is that now the France family they're in a big pickle because
I love that you just said that. I hope it's bread and butter.
Was that,
Come on.
wait,
I'm trying to get
was
buddy
that
buddy with you.
intentional?
Oh, I
Yeah,
just
what?
Were
got
you
that.
looking for a place to put? That was creative.
You
man.
like that?
It went right over my head until I looked over your
Well, of
shoulder.
course, because creativity is not your thing. Anyway, regardless,
Touche.
NASCAR needs to be ran like a sport again. It's just they're killing themselves on the inside out. That's exactly what's happening with
Now,
NASCAR.
we're able to dive this deep into the discussion because the race just was not that thrilling. this past
Exactly.
Sunday. And I something caught my attention late last night. It was a tweet from Darrell Waltrip. And
Is that what you do late at night?
It was.
Look
yes.
at Darrell
That-
Waltrip.
Yes.
Text with me.
Yes. That and have deep conversations about the downward spiral of my life with Willie Davis.
Well,
That's
our lives. Come on,
Our
we're going
lives
through the same one.
combined,
Oh, jeez.
Waltrip said, if you're
Oh,
the
no.
sponsor of a cup car spending
good.
$12 to $15 million a year, you want to hear we suck, finish second, or at least we finished on the podium. And I think that raises a very interesting point. Now, one of the guys we've been talking about a lot is Kyle Busch. And I always say that I like Kyle Busch because he's never happy with finishing second or worse. He has to win. And if he doesn't win, then he's beside himself.
I admire the passion, and I do believe he's a very talented driver,
Right.
whether or not Hannah likes it.
But-
I'm not saying I'm his biggest fan all the time.
But now that we're in a world where the access is constant, like back when I first started watching NASCAR, like you had
my day.
you had the 1.5 hour pre-race show on Sunday morning on like TNN, like NASCAR Race Day, and then you got right into television coverage. The race ended, you got RPM Tonight on Sunday, and then that was it. Perhaps you would get RPM Tonight like throughout the week sprinkled in, but it was only
well,
30
they had
minutes
Two Wheel
long.
Tuesday and stuff
And-
like that when they
yeah.
expanded. Yeah,
But that was it. Like the coverage was really minimized. There was no social media where drivers would just go. The only time you heard from the drivers were, either on their television coverage, in print media, and that was it. Now you're always able to hear what they have
the
to
technology,
say.
like Twitter alone, and it's not because you still have like the NASCAR race day and all that stuff. I mean, I grew up, with Bob Jenkins being the voice of NASCAR, and. I remember being so excited, like, ooh, the Thrills and Spills, show is coming on, things like that.
Yeah.
And like you said, and you talked about this, probably about a year ago, about the instant gratification, being able to go to YouTube and look at these, intense highlights and seeing the best moments, ever.
Exactly.
And But now, as you're saying, with between Twitter and Facebook and all the social media aspect of it, plus all the television shows that are on daily that are NASCAR, this, that, and they're like, oh, they announced this, and it's constantly in your face, constantly updating. It's hard for us to keep up. I was just looking at the overtime thing. Overtime line getting moved today. I'm like, oh crap, we got to talk about that today now.
Yeah, that actually almost slipped right through the cracks.
Yeah, what about this crap? Okay,
well, we'll get to it in 1 second. But finish your.
But to further the discussion, and I'll pose it to the two drivers in the room. So now, Nick, let's just say you're back in your drag racing days.
Oh boy.
Do you think
back being a drag?
Hold on, let me get the face.
Do you think it would further benefit you to? Perhaps just be humble and maybe settle for subpar results.
Nick being humble,
or is it the driven determination of wanting to win or must win?
Yeah.
And now in a politically correct world, what is the best thing to do to attract sponsorship?
Yeah. So I'm actually talking a lot about this in my new book that's coming out really soon. You guys think I'm kidding? It's actually why I'm going to California next week. But anyways, so in my head, yeah, I would definitely be disappointed with second. Absolutely. I would show up at the track and then amongst my dad, just set the tone for the weekend.
Yeah, but we know that. But for the sponsor point,
we're going to win and everything like that.
Right.
But for the sponsor, absolutely, definitely humble with competitors. Absolutely.
No,
100%.
but is it
but
better
in my
to-
own head, it's different.
Is it? The question was, is it better to finish second and be okay with it because you have a happy sponsor, or do you want to win? Do you want to talk down like Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch all the time? Well, I finished second. Well, that sucks. If I was Target, I would have been happy about that.
Sometimes
I don't think it matters. I don't think they care really. I just think they really care of how long their logo's on television, throughout the race, and I think that's more what matters. As long as you're not
Is that why
blatantly.
Danica always has sponsorship?
Wait, hang on. All right, so I see where you're coming from.
Right.
But as a current driver, you got to talk down. You got to want that one better spot because that one better spot
I'm leaning towards that, so I'm with you.
Gets them more television time because you got the interview.
Right,
for
as opposed
victory.
to great weekend.
You got all the post-victory stuff and all that stuff. You got the tour that you can promote them on.
Disagree.
So, why are you disagreeing?
That just got
Well,
me.
no,
The way he said it, he's all like,
Yeah.
it was like a Donald Trump, like, wrong.
It kind of just looked like he was telling me I'm fired.
I think because when you get the Kurt Busch yelling at the pit reporter, who was that?
were
Was
like
that Jared
two.
Hunt?
It was Bob Pockris back, a couple years ago.
Yeah, when we get that, I mean, as a sponsor, you don't want to see that with the attitude. I'd rather see a guy that's humble and willing to take.
But oh my gosh, we have a podcast here we're doing, gentlemen. At the end of the day, if I was Target, I don't want to see my guy get out of the car and say how the car stunk. They had a winning car and they didn't perform to where they should have. It would have pissed me off.
I'm so on the fence about
But
this.
you'd be so happy
I'm-
that your logo is on television. I mean,
No,
as long as you don't say anything
because-
that blatantly, really makes you
the
look
problem
bad,
is
and then
Kyle Busch
would
and
make
Kyle
the sponsor
Larson
look
and
bad.
Kurt Busch and all them, they say these things. Now, granted, Kurt
Because they're
Busch.
not. How could they be happy with second?
But
How
But as a
I'm not saying that they have to internally be happy with it, but when you talk to the media, you don't be a d-bag.
I would be.
See, I guess
that's why Nick's not
It's
driving
entertaining,
anymore.
but I don't want to buy from your company.
Exactly. Thank you, Josh.
I guess
thank you.
I could try to tie this into a lot of the silly season news, which is broken. Kurt Busch, actually, Stewart Haas Racing has elected to apparently not pick up Kurt Busch's option for the year. What that means technically is, even though they tweeted, Kyle got dumped, but Kurt may not be dumped yet. He may just have to change a couple things. It sounds like that they want
Is
him
it the
back
sloppy
next
seconds?
year,
It's
but
like they're
maybe
trying to
not at the
assassinate
same
his
terms.
career.
Yeah, well, not even that. But it just could be the fact of I see what you did there. But it could be them trying to restructure his deal because there's not as much money flowing in that team anymore. We all know Matt Kenseth's still on the free agent list, and I really wish that we got to a point where like the sport was almost like stick and ball sports, where like it didn't come down to how much money you brought to the table. It came down to where the owner was able to have who they wanted. Like I really wonder if the top owners in the sports like Gibbs, Childress, Hendrick, Roush.
Yeah, but then you have Dylan, who I mean.
Well, like just for argument's sake, well that's the thing. I mean, Childress would have him no matter what. But if money wasn't an object, I would like to see where some of these guys would end up. Like if it was up to like Hendrick or Roush, like Like, would Roush go back and say, hey, Kurt, I know we had an ugly breakup back in 05, but you know what? You could really help our team. Come on back. Like, don't worry about the money. We'll take care of it. Like, if sponsorship wasn't a big deal, I wonder what these teams would look like. But everything depends on the dollar.
I think this boils all the way back down to the local the local racing, too. I mean, look how many talented race car drivers we have in this area alone that don't get a chance because of sponsorship.
Yeah. It trickles all the way down to the Champ Kart
Because
ranks.
racing's now a business, it's no longer a sport.
Absolutely. Like Sam, we've always said, like supposedly the F1 drivers are the 22 fastest guys in the world. There's 7 billion people in the world.
They're not.
Imagine how many are faster. It's incredible. That just don't get the chance.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you guys saw the interview with Kyle Larson and iRacing and how he was how he was just talking about how he loves going onto it to play with the dirt or whatever at night. And he struggles winning those races because there are people out there that are faster, but they don't have the money or the funding to get up there. Like, I can...
Well, there was a quote I saw on Twitter. I forget. I want to say it was like, one of the, New Jersey racing things retweeted a driver that said, racing used to be a sport where anybody, like even poor Joe Schmo, could slap a car together and go racing and be relatively competitive.
That's back in the Doc Hudson days.
Yeah, but now it's now. Yeah,
Can someone take his mic?
My
and
train
give
of
it to
thought
her so we actually have someone that knows.
But
Ka-chow.
he said,
I did see that tweet you were referencing.
yeah, it used to be that way, and
That
it's
way,
a shame
like,
because
if you had like an
used
ultra competitive
to
team
be.
at Wall and they decided, hey, you know what? Why don't we go try to run a couple truck races? They'd put a truck together and they'd go do it. Now it's like
That's why you have ARCA.
Well,
Well,
is it that?
ARCA
that was-
ARCA is strictly pay to play.
that was the Brad Keselowski argument with the new Cup rule. He would say like, drivers are independent contractors. There's only certain places they can go to run and race to earn additional pay or to try to win trophies or to obtain sponsorships. ARCA and K&N are development series that they can go run competitively. I don't necessarily buy that. I think that it turned into the water got infested. Now it's cluttered and it's time for NASCAR to kind of drain the swamp and refill it because it's unwatchable. But
Make
the race on
NASCAR
Saturday-
great again.
There you go. That's exactly what they're going to do. And part of that is, as Josh alluded to earlier, was the new overtime line rule
Which
change.
was bull.
Why?
Because, like I said on the show a month ago, it should simply be the orange cone commitment line at every track. Every track is different, and it's adjusted to the track, like where Richmond is compared to Martinsville or Daytona. It's different.
See, I think that's a good idea, but they're not that far away from it. They're going to go back to. They're essentially going to go back to what it was when they introduced the green-white checker
Exactly.
in 2010.
Exactly.
It just sounds like they left wiggle room
Yep.
to keep that overtime line as a little bit of
So
a variable for
if-
tracks like Daytona
If you
and
keep
Talladega.
it at the commitment line, there's no wiggle room.
But-
It's different in every track.
It's definitive, yes.
You know where it is. The drivers know where it is because they try to race to it.
But
every
if
time
you
they
go to
get
like
off
a
the road.
Mid-Ohio, you don't have a start-finish line. You have a start line and you have a finish line. So what do they use, kind of a thing?
That's actually a fantastic
the-
freaking point that I never thought
The
of.
commitment
Josh
line.
gets
This
those.
kid,
The
Josh
commitment
blows
line-
my mind. I don't get it.
The
Like,
commitment line for
what
pit
the hell
road.
are they going to do with Mid-Ohio?
They should just make the start line also the finish line.
But the commitment line for pit road. That's all I'm saying. It's
At
transparent.
what
to every
point does the
track.
lap get clicked off?
Am I right? Am I right?
No, I actually like that idea.
NASCAR. I'm
but-
going to school down in Charlotte. Hit me up.
But
I
then,
got some great
then
ideas.
you have guys like former Truck Series pit reporter and play-by-play guy
Ray
Dunlap, who says, you know what, the only way to do it is to do it the way that ARCA does it, and that's guarantee a green flag finish. Even if ARCA has a caution on the last lap, they freeze the field, they rack them up, they do a one-lap shootout, and they do not stop until the race finishes on the green.
That involves racing, and NASCAR's not into that anymore. They got to get that one lap to go every time.
Do you believe there was a time when you could race back to the line? Remember
Yes.
that?
Yeah.
Nick
I
doesn't believe in
I
racing.
wish
though.
that could. I wish it was still like that because
Oh
you
my
had some
God.
of the best finishes.
The safety point of that, though.
And it's like, as I start to encounter...
Okay, so what about the safety? It's your drivers. Your life is on the line. You already know this. It's more of a spectacle for the fans.
Look at Indianapolis. They took their white, right? That big wreck would have happened. You want them to come back around and race to the checker flag?
Most of the wrecks I've seen
Wasn't
Who-
there
who
on
could
the final
slide to
lap.
the
Wasn't there a
right?
line drawn with that even when it was race back to the line? If there was something like that, wasn't there a line drawn where they could still drop a yellow?
They would drop the yellow if it was racing back to the line.
problem is
but
you-
they were scored at the line, not at one of the loops.
Right, you can't roll the safety trucks until
That's
the
all I'm
caution
saying.
flag is out. You have to make sure that the
Right, I
cars
understand.
are like we
So
could
God forbid someone's injured, they would not get
Yeah.
detained to for a
And I
lap
mean,
line
and
check.
I'll tell you that the other argument that I heard was I guess they had they had a race at Daytona in 2011. It might have been. They had a wreck on the backstretch. And then they
raced them back.
Then they try to keep the green out, and they race. And I usually say, like, let them race back. But it wasn't until this happened, and I heard an official give a quote in a newspaper, something like that. Then they had a wreck in the tri-oval. Now you got 2 wrecks at 2 different ends of the racetrack, and NASCAR's figured out how to disperse their emergency personnel and resources.
Who do you go to first?
How do you prioritize that?
That could happen, though, in a race, to be honest.
Yeah,
I mean,
in a
if
rare
you have
instance.
cars on both sides and somebody gets into it here, and then even if they start throwing the yellow and somebody checks up too early and, runs around, there's
John
a wreck.
McTownley.
Yes.
That happened in the first DQ
I'm
race
just
at
saying
Wall
it
this
could
year.
I was just thinking, like, Joey Bailey's listening to this right
Hang
now.
on, hang on.
And he's like, hey, I didn't do it. Like,
It was
I love you, Joey.
there was 2 flips on the first DQ race at Wall this year.
Yeah.
One on each straightaway
right. And,
on the same caution.
Then,
Yeah.
the next one was in reaction to the yellow.
But
Which
that's-
could happen. But this was, they kept the green out, tried to get a green flag finish out of it. And
So
then they wadded
NASCAR
up
did to
again.
themselves.
I think if anybody,
So, right, they kind of shot themselves in the foot, and then they have to make a decision on the fly. And I mean, God forbid somebody actually got hurt. Then how do you distinguish where the importance lies? So I guess you're trying to prevent that type of situations. Like I was having a conversation with Warren Alston this past weekend about the fire that took place. I believe it was upstate New York, and it sounds like whatever driver was involved. And again, I don't have my information in front of me, and bad job by me. Sounds like the driver's really not going to make it. But it cycles back to other states having different rules and different parameters.
God, we were
where
in Pennsylvania. They have no fire gloves.
yeah, no gloves,
100 miles an hour on dirt.
two-piece fire
Incredible.
suits, no ambulance on the scene.
Incredible.
And we'll talk about this in the third segment, but the wreck that we had at Wall Stadium Speedway with Peter Bruno, Brian Hammer was upstairs in the tower with me, and he counted. It took 5 seconds, less than 5 seconds, for not just the track crew to get to Bruno's car because of how quickly they displayed the red and got the field stopped, but even the ambulance to get. And the ambulance is usually not official Wall Stadium Speedway personnel. They're usually outsiders who are brought in to handle it so that way they can get them to the nearest hospital.
Yeah.
5 seconds, they were at Peter Bruno's car. And that's not possible without the rules that are in place that you can go automatically red and that everybody's wearing the right stuff.
And that's not possible at NASCAR either.
And it almost
Look,
not.
look,
IndyCar's
how long
response
does it
times
take
are a
them
lot
to drive
better.
the
At
track?
Indy, that was ridiculous. They dried the track faster than they cleaned
Exactly.
up from the wreck.
Yeah,
That's all I'm
It's pretty
saying.
bad. So, well, we'll have to see how they do at Watkins Glen, which is known to have some wild moments.
And real quick, I just read here that, and this affects the whole points thing. Denny Hamlin finally won that race. He's talking about maybe stepping out of Watkins Glen and having Regan Smith fill in because he's expecting his second child or first child. One
I
of his
believe it's
kids.
his second.
Yeah.
It could be, yeah.
But the point being, though, if he didn't win that race a few weeks ago, would he be stepping out? Because he's pretty good at Watkins Glen.
But does this go against the rules of you must attempt to qualify for every race?
Well, he might attempt to qualify, but he might not start the race.
Okay.
They'll probably grant him a waiver. I mean, if
For something like that,
Yeah.
especially
You get
with
away
they've had
from you get away.
Yeah.
Well, no, remember with Tony Stewart,
2007 at Dover when he got wrecked in the Powerade car and he hurt his wrist.
well, I think Stewart had
No, I
3
was-
waivers given to him at some
I
point.
think there's been so many waivers with
Yeah,
Stewart. Let's get
between
real here.
That the Bush family, like everyone's
The
collecting
one
them.
because of the mental strain from the whole accident in New York.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff. So I don't see them having a problem with that. But let's see how the race unfolds. You got the Xfinity Series as well as the Cup Series at
I
Watkins Glen
can't
this
believe we
weekend.
talked for a half hour about NASCAR.
And this is one of the
I
better
know.
races of the year. Well, we're going to talk about F1.
Watkins Glen will be, yeah.
So Ferrari won. What does?
there's nothing.
doesn't matter.
Yeah, there's
Well,
nothing.
we are
over
going to talk about that. Also, speaking of Mid-Ohio, IndyCar tested their 2018 road course package there, so we'll talk about that very briefly. I believe Formula E wrapped up their season this past weekend.
It's that time of the year again.
Sebastian Buemi's title hopes kind of collapsed over the last few
Last
races.
race was Montreal.
So
That's pretty cool.
I believe so.
Wow.
I'll have to verify that again because I'm not here to check my facts. And yeah, I think that's all the overall stuff we talk
Fake
about when we
news.
come back on the other side. So we got Hannah, Willie, Sam, Josh, Nick, and Late Boy. We're all here for the RPM podcast. Don't go anywhere.
All right, this is Eric Graham from the RPM Podcast. Josh and Eric Brennan won't leave me alone until I do one of these read things. So, follow us at Facebook. Either search RPM Podcast, go to facebook.com/Racing Podcast New Jersey. Hopefully this sounds freaking organic enough for Josh because he won't leave me the hell alone about it. But here's your read. Follow us on Facebook. Do it now.
Welcome back to the RPM podcast. Got Hannah DiMartino and Willie Davis in studio with us
Hey,
this
Italian.
evening. And Willie's got the headset on. Hannah's just kind of sharing the microphone with Sam. Then we got Josh Matthews, Nick Rendo, and of course I am Eric J. Brennan.
What's the J for?
John.
I thought it was jerk.
Well, there's a few other J words some people throw at me every now and then, but that's one of them. So, yeah, just keep going. Keep going.
I just ruined this segment.
My God, you guys are.
Eric,
I'm pretty
What?
sure it
I'm
was
behaving.
ruined already because
Sam, I will give you your ice cream at the end of the night. Promise.
It's Vanilla's personality.
It is. That's like the new NASCAR commercial that NBC's doing, where Kurt Busch makes fun of Jimmy Johnson and Vanilla and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, I like the one where they're chilling in the office and they're dancing to the music.
You got to give Hannah a mic next time.
I'm out of inputs. We need a bigger mixer.
More money. All this
Or
podcast
she
does
needs
is
to
cost
go
money.
outside on a phone and.
Did you say the B word?
What?
Did you
Did
say?
I?
go outside and
So
call
all this
it.
podcast does is cost money.
So anyway, they raced.
It
I
does.
thought you said bowl.
F1
What?
was racing this
What?
weekend.
What? All right, guys.
He's talking about
Let's-
Red Bull.
Let's roll this in.
All right,
Oh, what a
Nick's-
smash on the second turn. Well, he said Red Bull. I mean,
Okay. Now, actually, I want to talk about that.
it was literally like that. It was insane. And then he's just like, "Was that who I think it was?" And like, "Oh yeah, it was,
Well,
mate." And
I
then he was like,
understand-
bleeping sore loser. It was
the
incredible.
I
He
understand.
actually flipped him off when he
I-
came by under safety car. Really, really cool. For all those who don't know, we're actually talking about the Budapest Grand Prix. Absolutely remarkable race. Just all in all, exquisite.
It's only because Ferrari got
Well,
1-2.
Yeah, I would say it probably wasn't a more interesting race. However, something monumental did happen in the championship, so we're definitely going to cover that.
All right, anyway, but let's go to that lap 1 incident with Ricardo.
Okay. So yeah, there's the
and
start.
Verstappen.
It was a gorgeous start. I just want to say, one stayed first, second, third, fourth, all 1 through 4.
There was
slotted in
no
behind each
racing. It
other.
was sexy as AF.
It was absolutely gorgeous until Max screwed up, which is what Josh is about to talk about.
But that's the thing. He
Yeah.
screwed up. He took it a little too fast. Started he locked up the left front.
Yeah, I think they have like a negative camber where like the chassis doesn't really roll into that corner.
Yeah.
They were saying so you really don't pass on the inside of that corner.
He pushed a little too hard in that turn, locked
Right.
up the left front, slid to the outside, and took out his teammate.
a little too hard.
But the thing is,
Actually, it was incredible going around the next turn. All the radiator fluid and everything got on the rear tires,
And
spun
he-
him.
yeah.
And actually, if you look at Palmer,
He was
who
spun-
was driving, trying to hold on to it. It was remarkable.
He was.
For a second, I almost
Palmer was
debated if maybe he
incredibly
should
lucky.
stay in the seat, and I was like, oh, yeah, never mind.
But the thing was, he got a penalty. What was it, 10 seconds?
Yeah, not
10
enough.
seconds. Whoa. Here's the thing. That was an
That's
actual.
funny coming from you, Nick Rendo.
That was a mistake. Whereas when Magnussen, now I'm a big fan of the Haas team. They're trying to bring the U.S. back into it. America.
America.
But what
a big Haas
Magnussen
guy.
did when he purposely drove Hulkenberg off the track, and there was barely a penalty.
What
Actually,
apex?
did you see what happened during the interviews?
No, but.
You-
Sorry,
yeah.
that was supposed to be an inside joke between Sam and I, but everybody got quiet, so that kind of ruined it.
Yeah. Anyway, but the thing is, that was more intentional than what Verstappen did, and there was less of a penalty for it. That's where my problem with the FIA is. Do you understand where I'm?
I do. And actually, the incident with Verstappen makes me kind of like we've been craving for somebody like Verstappen to come to Formula One in quite some time. Somebody who has no care for the consequences of overdriving or making a
The
mistake.
Kyle Busch of F1.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But is there room for somebody like that in Formula One? Like Nick, I feel like you think that's not. It's not what the sport was built
He was
on.
passing. I don't like it.
Max Verstappen's going to go for Ferrari, and Nick's going to be like, I love Max Verstappen. He's the greatest race car driver ever.
You heard it here
You're
first.
probably right on that.
Back in middle school, I loved Sebastian
I don't like his
Vettel.
lips.
And Nick Rendo turned
He's
around
always
and
up there. He looks like he's been
hated
stung by a
Sebastian
bee.
Vettel. Hated Sebastian Vettel.
Like I literally can't stand him. I really can't. Anyways, so yeah, no, that was remarkable, Josh. I was actually quite happy when the safety car came out because it's just I think it eliminated the two-stop strategy, which is good because the less time that the two front cars were on pit road, the better because there was less of a chance of an undercut happening. So I was very pleased
At
about that.
Haas.
So I would say,
But that's still biased. I mean,
Yes, very
because of
biased.
who the two front cars were.
Yes.
I mean, on lap 30, they had pulled out about a 20-second gap until Vettel's radio came on, and Vettel started to slow up, and Kimi started to close the gap, and it was like, oh, this is peculiar.
Did we
because
ever
we know how
find
much
out-
faster Vettel is than Kimi. We did not find out exactly what it was. It was definitely something like bent, I would
avoid
say.
the curbs.
Right. It was actually, for all those, I'm sure everyone knows here, like an IndyCar or NASCAR, if you let go of the wheel on the backstretch, it's going to go all the way to the left because that's the way, the
Yeah,
camber,
they're
toe,
designed to
everything
turn,
is
yeah.
exactly to turn left. Something was definitely off on Sebastian's car when you see him going down the front stretch. He's actually, turning to the right,
Yeah.
which
That,
accelerated.
oddly enough, happened several times in Formula E this past weekend as well
Really?
in the Canadian race. Yeah.
No way. Oh,
Yeah,
that's the
they clipped the wall. They clipped somebody else. There was wheel-to-wheel
Then knocked the toe out
contact,
or
and
something.
all of a sudden, the toe was a little bit off, or something got a little bent.
Right.
But back to F1.
And I remember Seb got on the radio and he's like, "Please do not extend this stint because the front tires are so worn." Just from constantly trying to get the car back in line. So you have Kimi Räikkönen. We were talking about this a little bit before we got on the show.
His commentary on Paul di Resta's return was great.
He's always
about
the man.
he's like because
if you can't see the blue flags, you should stay in the commentary booth. Like that. Yeah, I can't really do his accent. It's just too beyond.
But it was it's anger. It's an angry.
Absolutely, of course. And I completely understand Kimi Räikkönen's frustration. Kimi Räikkönen, for all those who don't know, wanted to have the team invert the cars and let him drive away.
Well, he was running. He had better lap times. I mean, he was faster than Vettel
because the car was going in a straight line. So he wanted to run away with the win, which he would have with the Ferraris being so much faster than the Mercedes at the shorter tracks like Hungary. Hungary is basically Monaco without the walls. I heard someone refer to that during the race, so I thought that was kind of a cool way to think about it. Because Mercedes
I think
really
it was
just
more
has
exciting than Monaco ends up. I mean, Monaco looks cool, but
no, absolutely. I think that track style is like a little bit shorter, like a Singapore or something.
Kimi
wanted to
the
do
lap
that.
count is dramatically higher.
Right, and Ferrari did not want to invert the cars because they figured that would leave Vettel being a sitting duck. Both Mercedes would pass. You'd have a Ferrari 1-4, which would be bad for the constructors and bad for the drivers' championship, which was separated at 1 point by the time. So they wanted to really.
But they're also running the risk at that point.
Huge roll of the dice.
Losing both cars.
Huge roll of the dice. I can't imagine
having
the
a
pressure.
3-4.
I can't imagine the pressure on Maurizio Arrivabene having his boss Sergio Marchionne there, along with Pietro Fiore, which is the son
Funny
of
how all these
one of
names
Enzo's
end in vowels.
One of Enzo's mistresses. So a real scandal in the garage right there. Yeah, it's incredible. So Ferrari's roll of the dice managed to pay off. Now, what I really want to get into is Lewis, which I was saying before. Valtteri could not pass Raikkonen to eventually make the move on Vettel. So Lewis said, "Give me a chance. Let's invert the cars. If I can't pass him, we're going to switch back." Now, we all know Lewis. We've all watched him for 3 years with Nico. Who would believe that? Of course, no one would believe that.
I wouldn't.
I wouldn't either. So they switched the cars. Lewis could not get by. The team told Valtteri, "Stay behind Lewis." So
his tire. He was on the softs, and the tires were getting worn.
Right. I don't think Brennan's heard this. He's looking at me now. So
No,
intensely.
I
I feel like I'm on Dr. Phil.
I
He's
heard
like-
the story. I'm just your energy just draws me
Oh,
in.
it's incredible. So Lewis gets on the
incredible to see a
radio
Ferrari win.
with 10 to go, knowing that he can't pass. And he says, "Where's Valtteri? I want to switch back." And everyone's like, "Oh my God, this is incredible." And the team goes, "Yeah, don't worry about it. Valtteri's 8 seconds back with Verstappen, like right up his booty." So he's like, "Don't worry about it. We don't want you back there." So, Hamilton's like, "No, I really want to switch back. I want to switch back." On the last lap, Hamilton begins to slow. Now, this is a championship contender separated by 1 point running in third, where his rival is about to win the race. Literally lets, 8 lapped cars go to let Valtteri pass him on the last turn, to then slide in front of Verstappen and floor it over the line to not get past.
Now,
absolutely remarkable. Like me and Will, who we're going to talk to in a minute, we're just talking about this, and we're beside ourselves.
But did you
He
see
gave
the
up
lap
3
times
points,
that
a podium? It's insane.
The lap times Verstappen was turning on like
Incredible.
40 lap old tires,
Yeah.
super soft tires.
I
And
can't
he
believe how
was-
slow Bottas was.
I-
It's really weird.
But
Very
that's the thing
uncharacteristic.
even with junk equipment at that point. I don't mean the whole Red Bull car. I mean the tires going away more than anything, especially with super softs.
Yeah.
For him to still be turning out incredibly fast lap times like that,
Yeah.
and I was actually
and
almost
having the
hoping
whole right side of his car hit his teammate really hard when you watch the onboard, and the fact that didn't mess up something is quite remarkable in its own.
He was running incredibly
Oh
well
my
for
God.
a while.
The
And
damage.
it's kind of the Kyle Busch thing. You want to hate him because he drives kind of like a D-bag, but he's also a really good driver, especially like we saw in Brazil last
He's
year.
a really nice D-bag.
Yeah. He's a talented D-bag, I think is what it comes down to.
Like me.
Yeah.
Scratch the talented part out.
I'm talented.
Formula E.
In what kind of ways?
I'm just going to
A bunch.
just go over
Yeah.
one thing really quick with Will. So we're literally in this porch area right now with someone who's been to COTA and someone who's been to the F1 race in Indianapolis in 2002. This man his ears have witnessed Michael Schumacher flooring a Ferrari V10. Tell us about it. This guy's a legend.
What are we doing
God.
here?
Dude, I was 7.
It's incredible.
It's,
All right, so tell us about COTA. You were just there last week, man.
Co-
What was it like?
COTA it's an amazing track.
What's the facility like? Awesome?
Oh,
Seems awesome.
COTA being
I
Circuit of the
personally just
Americas.
kind of stayed towards the paddock because I am a racer, and I'm more interested in pit strategy, all that stuff.
Me too. Me too.
I-
Who needs
Boring.
to say it?
And I'm friends with Ryan Flores, so seeing like the tire changes and all that stuff, it just keeps my attention.
It's awesome.
And then like me and my buddies, we kind of went down to the final turn to watch them coming to the checker flag.
Oh, really? Cool.
And it was
And you probably got to see the entrance to pit road, right? Coming off after the victory lap and everything. That's really cool.
But it was honestly probably one of the best facilities I've ever been to go witness a race.
Wow, that's awesome. And if you guys ever run into this guy or have the pleasure of talking to him, I mean, he has sat on a pit box with Ray Everham. What was it, 1999? No, a little bit later. 2001, last year at Ray Everham, right?
Something
or 2000,
like
something like that. This guy's pretty cool.
It was thanks to my
He's done a
grandfather,
lot.
though.
Yeah,
How old were you?
My grandfather. I'm 22.
No, were you?
I was like
7, 6,
4 to 6, somewhere in there.
Wow, that's crazy.
I was really young.
That's awesome.
Did you guys see on Formula One today that KFC might be signing a deal with Toro Rosso?
Ew.
Something about fried chicken in Formula One just doesn't mix
Yeah,
well.
that
It doesn't
well,
fit
you're
the
taking
healthy,
redneck and
conscious-
throwing it into
yeah.
a first-class sport.
I bring this up
It's
not
awesome.
to
People
get your
eat
guys'
strawberries in the
opinions, but
stands.
check this out. The sponsorship's going towards F1 races like that.
No one wants Colonel Sanders.
Maybe NASCAR.
Yeah,
but Nick,
you go away.
Colonel
the
Flanders has
KFC
more money
bowls
than
are
you do,
amazing.
pal.
but I mean, you think about it with Liberty Media and everything. They've already made the numbers
Exactly.
bigger on the car. I think they're
Thank
heading
you,
that
Josh.
direction. They're
I actually really like that.
dare I say
you know, the
Americanizing the sport.
Oh,
Also,
having like the driver's 3 initials on the what is it?
Gosh,
the shark fin.
those
They have the
American
numbers.
businessmen, they don't
I
know
don't
how to
like
do
it.
jack.
I mean, it takes away. It's not about the driver. It's about the team. It's about the excellence of like where they come from. I mean, you literally have Germany going up against Ferrari. Like it doesn't matter.
We
who
had
the
the
pilot is.
Olympics for
It's-
this.
how many
It's the
No.
Olympics of
The Olympics is
motorsport.
competitive, that's
it's
why.
incredible.
how many years
it's
ago though,
remarkable.
was it that they finally let the drivers pick their own numbers?
Like 4 years ago, which I'm also against.
Why though?
Because
Because
it
it
should be where
shows
they finish.
because
it's
it
not
shows
about
personality
The driver
and-
represents
and-
the team. That's what their contract signs.
Oh Jesus, Nick.
All right, but last point before we go, it's actually more on a happier note.
Stop whining.
Roberto Kubica, incredible guy. Me and Brennan, we touched on the story last week, right?
Well, yeah, because I have Polish heritage in my family, so that's.
Oh, no kidding.
There's no Irish Formula One racers, so I got to stick with Kubica.
Right.
So.
You
And
don't
we were
want to
just
talk
looking
about
at his
Alonso's
arm.
finish?
About we could about the muscles just being torn
Are
off
you
from
touching
the
yourself?
guardrail. Yeah.
So if anything was talking about
Yeah.
it before, Kubica was after he was. I think it was an off-season rally event he was in.
Yeah.
Where his car ended up. I think it was in 2011. The car went through a section of guardrail, which actually went through his arm, and mutilated his hand. Thought he wasn't going to have mobility of his arm and his hand anymore. Virtually, what we thought ended his Formula One career. And Renault, after testing some older model cars, they allowed him to get into a current modern day 2017 Renault chassis.
Fourth.
And he
on the
was
time
fourth
sheets
out of the 13
Yep.
that
a
took place.
second and a half off of Sebastian Vettel's Ferrari time, which isn't even representative of his driving because that car is a second and a half off of, Vettel's Ferrari. So
And
He
remarkable.
turned
To
how
psych-
many laps too?
140, and I think Vettel was second with 180, or not 80, not 180. So double what everyone else ran.
Exactly.
Remarkable.
And to cycle
And
back
if
to
you guys
what-
see this guy's arm, I mean, it is just a bone. It's very sad. There's no muscles. I don't understand how he, builds up the strength to do this.
And if we're to
But he
loop back
does.
to what we were talking about in the first segment about being satisfied with your performance, he actually was quoted by Motorsport.com as saying he wasn't happy with his performance in the test.
No kidding.
Dude, you just came back after being out of the car for 6 years after nearly losing your life. He's almost lost his life. I mean, he could have bled out.
He almost lost his life at Montreal.
that
as
too,
a
in the
Formula
other
One
Formula
driver.
One wreck.
Did we ever hear? I'm sorry to interrupt. While it's on my mind here, what happened to the guy that lost like his jaw and everything in the off-road
The
truck?
Stadium Super Truck wreck?
Yes.
I can't remember the name. But I believe he was making a full recovery.
I think they were like replacing.
It's going to bother me that I can't remember that.
We can look it up later.
But what's
Sorry.
Formula One doing next?
The
Summer
break.
break.
It's the break.
It
Summer
is summer
break.
break. That's
Summer
They
right.
are locked out for a month.
That's
Summer
why,
break. 11 races are over. There are only 35 points between the two top constructors, and I believe 14 between the drivers. So it's still extremely tight. Anyone's game.
Although the edge appears to be with Ferrari and Vettel right now.
Not in the constructors. I don't think.
Really?
I don't know because
think Raikkonen
these
could
faster
step it up?
tracks are really more towards Mercedes. I think Spa and Monza are going to be really, really hard on Ferrari. I think they're going to get another 1-2 in Singapore, Japan, Malaysia. There's weather involved. Brazil. These will be like throw up races. It's going to be close to the end.
Throw
really,
up
really close.
races.
Toss
Yeah,
up.
throw them.
Toss up.
Thank you.
Essentially.
Thank you.
Ferrari winning.
Formula E, we have a champion.
Yeah, who? I teased it. I don't remember.
Well, all right, well,
I haven't been able to see a Formula
I didn't get
E
to
race
watch the
forever.
end of the second race yet, but I know Degrassi won the first. Buemi needed to finish No, I'm sorry, he needed to win. Heidfeld, I believe it was, had to finish 5th or better, and no matter what Buemi did, he was going to claim it. That's because Buemi missed the U.S. Grand Prix.
It ended up being Lucas
That's what
deGrasse.
it
You know, Nick Heinfeld owns a record for like not winning in like 10 years. It's like
Well,
the longest like.
Jean-Eric
winning
Verne
list
was 3 seasons of Formula E, and he hasn't won a race yet.
Wow.
And he's been like second. He's been there. It's a good team, a good driver, and he can't.
They're always up there in the points, just consistency.
Yeah. They're plenty consistent, and they got a good car. They just can't be in the right place at the right time. Overall, that was still an exciting race. And you talked about the steering wheel getting cocked a little bit, and that happened several times in the Formula E race. Because again, it was Canada. It was a street course, so they had like it's tight. It's kind of like that Monaco tight. Like you don't have
every Formula E track.
There's no grass runoff area or anything like that. I would love to see Formula E at maybe like a version of or like a shortened area of COTA or something like that.
I gotta tell you, and it could just be because I don't really watch Formula E. I'll be honest about that. But if I saw a highlight of everything, all the tracks kind of look the same to me. It might just be the camera angle and the walls being so high. But back me up here, man.
It's part of that.
It's wild because when you look at the schedule, it's like, oh my God, they're in London, they're here, they're in San Francisco, they're in New York. It's just so many different places. It all looks the same.
They need to widen it or give them a
The
runoff.
Formula E discussion kind of leads me into the IndyCar story that I want to talk about. Now, IndyCar did in fact race at Mid-Ohio, which again, it kind of parallel with Pocono. Really not a lot of things happened. Joseph Newgarden ended up winning the race. Will Power finished second.
Which I'm surprised. Mid-Ohio, I mean, we've seen, like, what is it? It wasn't Michael Andretti had a wild flip there years back with the kart series.
He had a bad wreck there, yeah, but the racing is not really that. I think the best race he had there was 2 years ago. Which
I think it's a fun track to drive. I mean, if you look at the ups and the downs, the curves, you have that big carousel turn before coming to the where the finish line is. I mean, I think it's a really good track. It's just unfortunately, like it didn't produce the best racing. I'm just kind of surprised because I think there's been good action in the past.
The Points Championship continues to tighten up in that series, but the bigger story that came out of Mid-Ohio for IndyCar was that they debuted their road course aero kit bodywork on the new Dallara manufactured pieces that are going to be outlined in the IndyCars 2018. It was the same thing that we had at Indy last week with the oval configuration test, Juan Pablo Montoya testing for Chevrolet, Oriol Servia in the Honda. But with that, Montoya was quoted as saying that he feels that this car is a little bit tougher to drive. And I was listening to the Marshall Pruitt podcast with Robin Miller, something they've been putting out the last few weeks. It's a great thing to listen to on iTunes if you want to catch up with some silly season news. We think NASCAR silly season is crazy. The IndyCar stuff is nuts. It sounds like the biggest domino to fall will be whether or not Andretti Autosport switches to Chevrolet, and that may free up Takuma Sato and Alexander Rossi with Honda dollars, and it just goes on from there. But
has there been a real reliability or performance difference between the manufacturers?
Well, this is my question. So on the podcast, they were talking about how they feel that a lot of manufacturers, this is something we talked about off air, Josh, how Porsche is now leaving the World Endurance Championship.
That leaves Toyota as the sole team
in LMP1.
Yeah.
They're looking at providing a Formula E entry.
Thank you, Aaron Lineman, by the way.
Mercedes is looking to put a Formula E entry together. Jaguar recently has been putting a Formula E entry together. There's a couple other manufacturers that are rumored to be coming in. I mean, Formula E could have 30-plus cars in the next 2 years. It looks like it's that
crazy.
It's that crazy.
That is crazy.
Meanwhile, you have IndyCar, who is struggling to court additional, really engine manufacturers. Marshall Pruitt's stance on the subject is, and I'll use his term because I disagree with him, even though the racing is not that good in Formula E, the manufacturers have flocked, again, Marshall Pruitt's words, not mine, the manufacturers are flocking to it because the door to the type of technology evolution that they could have in that sport is wide open. It continues to always have that ability to change and evolve and progress, whereas IndyCar is now back to being essentially a spec series minus the power plant, which
you're castrating the engineers. That's pretty much what you're doing.
Exactly. So now, I don't agree that the racing product of Formula E is bad. I think it's actually one of the best there is right now. But my question is, where does that line get drawn? See, now, like Robin Miller and Marshall Pruitt both say that if you look at the new IndyCar...
Are you saying, like, instead of how the old IROC series went, where everything was the same, spec series, basically...
Right.
You want to open it up a little bit, but how much do you open it up? Is that what you're asking?
Enough to entice people to come in, but not enough to the point where whoever spends the most money is going to be the most successful.
Okay, I'm on board.
Like I'll point at Nick Rendo with this in Formula One. I mean, it's like for a long time, Ferrari was on top because they seem to have like the New York Yankee mentality. Like we'll do whatever it takes to stay on top. And
you know what else was actually kind of weird when they were on top? I think the grandstands were filled.
Well, I mean, it may or may not have been. Okay, I can't argue that. But
think about it. But Marlboro was the big sponsor for many years, and I not to go down the political road, but tobacco companies and the money that they rake in.
Yeah. And it was a good-looking car.
But you go back to, what was it, George Carlin's line in Dogma, when they were talking about trying to get them while they're young. And, they go, oh, like the cigarette companies. And George Carlin says, if only we had their numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
And you think about the money they could dump into Ferrari and Formula One and things like that. Yeah. And then as that went away, I don't know. Maybe.
And that was before cost caps, which I think is another reason, obviously, why Ferrari would have been dominating, just because there was really no other huge manufacturer in Formula One during the Michael Schumacher era. I mean, there was Toyota, but I don't think they wanted to dump that much money into racing.
Right.
And,
or at least not there, because they wanted to maybe go more with, the touring cars and like the Continental Tire Series or the
it's actually even funny that you said. I was just talking to my dad too about Mercedes just coming into the sport and just really dominating after only a few years of being a midfielder, never even a back marker. Mm-hmm. And he was saying that they have to have a lot more money than Ferrari. I mean, they're Mercedes-Benz. I mean, that is a huge company. And Enzo has a famous quote saying,
"Why isn't Bentley in this?"
Enzo has a famous quote saying that he only builds road cars to fund the racing team. I mean, said in the 50s, but it's probably still pretty true to this day. I mean, because imagine how much money the racing team needs, and
but that's
how much
part
money,
of selling.
They're not selling that many cars. 1,000, 2,000 a month, maybe. It's not pumping out what Mercedes is pumping out. So Mercedes, they must have so much more advanced technology. I mean, Mercedes, 20 years ago invented paddle shifters. So many things get invented in their facility in Germany. So they have just the top of the line equipment.
And I feel like the thing was with IndyCars, they introduced these aero kit things, which
looked really good,
which turned into Chevrolet and Honda going into, I don't want to use the term, but I'm already down this road. So a blank measuring contest. Whoever wanted to spend the most money, engineer the most stuff, test the most, could do the most wind tunnel stuff. That's who was the fastest. It turned out to be Chevrolet. I mean, and then the expenses got outrageous, and they weren't able to keep up. And then all the owners started complaining, "It's costing us too much money. We got to scale back." Apparently, the Dallara body works a little bit cheaper, but now the only competitive nature you have for the manufacturers is in the power plants, and that may not be enough to court some of the guys. Like if you want to stick with the American manufacturers, maybe Ford, or if you want to go foreign, maybe getting Toyota back, or having somebody new come into the fold, because they don't have enough playroom in there. Whereas with Formula E, it's a whole new world. They could generate some new technology that they could put into their road cars. And now, if you're looking at governmental regulations,
all of us as race car drivers know how much technology on the road comes and stems from racing.
Well, yeah. Well, especially like awesome. the IMSA and things like that, all the Le Mans stuff.
Right.
But now with Robo Race coming in. And you look at all the cars with the automatic braking and the lane assist.
Tesla has KERS and ERS.
Yeah.
Braking, kinetic energy recovery system.
Think about
the new
autopilot.
Teslas have that. Where did that come from?
But the autopilot in that. I mean, think about what's going to get developed just from Robo Race, and that's going to trickle down. I know people are, there's a lot of resistance to the self-driving cars, but people are kind of okay with some of the sensors and the little things. I think it's going to be a step-by-step process.
The only thing holding that back, I heard, is ethics.
What's that?
The only thing holding that project back apparently is ethics, because a robot can't have ethics.
Yeah, but
that's like a whole other podcast. But isn't that
well, yeah.
And now you have all these new governmental regulations. Like a couple European countries are mandating that by 2040 that no regular, traditionally fossil fuel powered cars could be on the road anymore. They're going to have to be all electric. Whether or not that sticks or not, I don't know. But there's more than one country that's put that in place. I also saw a political ad that was shared by and not turn this into a political show, but the guy Ben Shapiro, very outspoken individual who I think he's on the right side of the fence, so to say. But it was something that was put together by a school about the fact how all these additional regulations on automobiles, like trying to force people to go to electric, where right now the technology only allows the batteries to last 4 to 8 hours. It's to try to restrict freedom and restrict travel and restrict your ability to drive, which that's where I say I'm not so upset about manufacturers joining Formula E, because they're going to figure out a way to perfect it and make those batteries last whole race distances instead of halves, and it's just going to improve from there. So that's where I don't
no
really
one likes
mind
the car
it.
driver change. No one does.
I'm the only person that doesn't care.
I like it.
I'm fine
I think it's
with
awesome.
it.
They finished the race in a
we
different
need a
car they
modern
started.
day
It's
Dan
freaking
Gurney.
sick.
And I mean the setup doesn't really change, and it's just I know a lot of people that are against it, but the rules are going to change over the next over the next 2 years, 3 years that they want the cars to last the whole race.
Yeah.
And okay, that's something to work towards. That's a good goal.
I like the drivers change because
it's different.
Well, it's also it's you can't have a less than whatever time.
Yeah.
Like they'll set for 60 seconds or 45 seconds. That way, no, you have enough time to get in the car, and they still hurry, but you have enough time to get in the car and make sure your belts are tight because they don't want anybody going out there, trying to fiddle with their belts.
There is a minimum, I understand.
Strategy like that is what makes racing. Like the difference between chess and checkers.
I think it's cool because as all race car drivers here, we know that even if the car is tuned identical, it's not identical.
Man,
100,000 moving parts on a car. It's completely different.
Oh my
and it's
God.
really cool.
We're
And
not
your first
race car
out lap is not
drivers.
practice. It's a race lap.
Oh my God.
And that's got to be intimidating.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to say about the new IndyCar that we were
I have a
talking
quick
about.
IndyCar question for you before you
Go ahead.
peace out.
No, go ahead. Fire
So
away.
they're saying that there's still a chance that Alonso could do IndyCar. So is it that McLaren is only
God,
coming if
back
he
on
comes? Is that
I'm not. I think right now it's a little too late in the game for McLaren to try to get in. Although, and that's one of the rumors that has not been floating around. In fact, the Alonso to IndyCar rumors are quiet. But I think, if I remember correctly, when Barrichello came over full time, that was like an 11th hour deal. That happened like at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, but you'll
if I
see him
remember
go over
correctly.
with Honda, not McLaren. Because
Yeah.
I think it's
Isn't-
way
But it
too late
sounds
for
like
McLaren.
Alexander Rossi is the Honda guy that may be the big piece to fall here.
and his IndyCar was Honda anyway. It was just sponsored by McLaren.
Here's
it.
a couple problems though. The IndyCar, the purses are
It's like saying a Red Bull's an
Trash.
Infinity.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
There's nothing
The-
Infinity on it at all besides
there's
the
no
paycheck.
money. There's no money in IndyCar, and then on top of that, I'm trying to say this to play. How old is Alonso?
36.
Isn't
Tony Kanon's 40. Elio Castroneves is
Yeah,
up there. He
but-
wants to keep
but-
going. In fact, everybody keeps thinking that Montoya and Castroneves are going to be in Penske sports car team, which they might. But apparently there's some rumblings that Castroneves approached another owner in the paddock last week asking if he'd be willing to field him an entry next year. So I don't think Elio is 100% on board with getting out of IndyCar entirely. I feel like he still thinks he's got
He just
something
wants to
left
be
in the
loved.
tank.
Love me.
If I was him and he wins a championship, I walk away. Like, you go out on top. That's the only thing he's never done is win that title.
What apex?
If he gets it done, go. If he doesn't, he's obviously proved this year he's still got it. See what else you can do. Why not? But as far as the new car, Montoya said it's tougher to drive. Robin Miller, Marshall Pruitt, they say that it looks like an Indy car. It sounds like an Indy car. It's what it should be. I'm a little hesitant because I've seen how well the DW12 raced after they implemented it in 2012 and on, even with the aero kit changes. Yeah, it's like the depth chart that some people have for dating. It's like how good somebody looks and how crazy or normal they are. It's a perfect ratio. I don't care how good the car looks. I want it to race well. That's all I care about is how well it races. As these 2 are pointing.
you got a good laugh from the peanut
So-
gallery there.
No, but that's the comparison. That's the parallel I'm going to draw here. Is it could look sporty and it could drive sporty by itself, but how well does it race? How
Like
well does
they
it
may have
handle
just
traffic?
destroyed
Like,
the Texas race
exactly.
for the fans.
The Indy 500 has been one of the best races, bar none, all
disagree.
season long since 2012.
It's
Disagree.
First
Texas
one I ever
is-
watched was 2012.
I told you 30 seconds of that onboard from Texas is better than the entire Indy 500.
Well, Texas has been good the last few years,
Yeah,
as
but
has
that's-
Pocono.
But you're saying Indy's been. I mean, I disagree about Indy being that great of
the
a race.
stats about the lead changes and number of leaders will tell otherwise.
Those damn balloons,
The-
Josh.
The stats of the number of balloons that they released this year.
Still, the number of leaders and lead changes will still prove my point.
Still
that Indy
those
was
balloons,
thrilling.
Josh.
So
I think
that's what I'm worried
Space out
about.
too much at Indy though.
The draft kind of keeps him in
But
play.
that's what they like. They don't like passing. It's
Well,
you
it's
can't run
racing.
too
It's
wide
open
at
wheel.
Indy.
That's right,
It's
it's
a
open wheel.
problem.
That's a track problem. It's not a car problem.
It's both.
No,
All
it's
right,
not.
ladies.
You're not going to be able to design a car that can run side by side at Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Why
Stock
not?
car, Indy car, Formula One, motorcycles.
Put a 4x8 sheet of plywood on the back for their spoiler or whatever, and they can run like that because they won't be able to
Still
go
gonna
fast
work.
enough.
Only the Indy Lights are able to do it 3 wide for 2 corners.
Did we just spend a half an hour talking about open wheel?
Yes, we did.
We did.
Fernando with the fastest lap.
Oh,
Oh,
Montoya came from 30th place in
Nick is coming down
2015
with
to come
something.
back and win the 500 that year. Don't tell me you
Wasn't
can't
that
pass.
incredible?
You can pass. Racing
know.
is not about being
I
stuck
know.
side by side. It's
I
about
agree.
passing.
I'm
I
sorry,
agree.
but Kurt Busch has
You don't even
actually
like
proven you
passing
can
on
run
the
side by side at
It
Indianapolis.
depends where my car is.
With an IndyCar?
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
Your Ferrari. Yes, I get it.
He went 3 laps with someone side by side in the Indy 500 that he ran.
I'd have to check on that.
Wrong.
Before this dials out, I just have a quick bone to pick with Liberty Media. We all know like the meme that has went around with Fernando. and,
Is
like-
it because they're encouraging action in the race?
No. It's the meme of him with the lawn chair. They painted that on Parc Ferme, and for all those who don't know, Parc Ferme is 1, 2, 3, the 3 podium cars where they are.
Wait, they put the image of what?
They put the image of Fernando chilling on the lawn chair. They painted that onto Parc Ferme, and yeah, it's funny. It's like a cool Instagram pic. Maybe we'll get a couple likes, but like, it's
That's
too
ironic
cute.
coming from
It's
you.
not supposed to be fun. Like, I'm sorry. It's stupid. Bernie
how dare
Ecclestone
we
would never let it
enjoy
fly.
anything?
Yeah, it's just like childish at the end. Like, I don't like
See,
it. This isn't a Pixar movie.
I
This
loved
is like
all
the
the-
Olympics, and I'm tired of these memes.
But I love
this is
the-
what happens when Americans get involved
How many F1 memes do you send me on Instagram?
in
Nick?
like European sports.
Yeah, you love the Maldonado one where it shows the line he would take through a
Oh,
traffic
yeah,
circle.
that's
You
funny,
love
yeah.
that.
I do. But they didn't paint it on Parc Ferme.
No, but what about like all the Governor Christie
This
memes?
is personality, which Nick Renault doesn't like.
I
He
do
used to
like
Kimi
those.
Raikkonen on the RPM podcast.
Who's your favorite F1 driver?
I kind of
What?
agree
Who's your
with
favorite F1 driver? If you had to pick.
Weber.
Lewis. Weber? Oh, I like Weber. He's a cool guy. Weber is cool.
He's a cool guy.
Well, yeah.
He's not Seb cool, but
No,
he's
he's
cool.
Australian. I like Mark Weber.
Honestly, he's also a really good sports car driver.
Yeah. You ever see his flip?
So anyway, we had
You've seen
racing
that,
on
it's
Wall
pretty good.
Stadium. I'm
Oh,
getting
that's right.
bored here, fellas. This is boring the crap out of me.
We only have about a couple. Yeah, we only have a couple minutes. So let's.
Well, one real quick, since you touched on it, I have that same issue that you have, where like you struggle with the serious nature of what
Thank
racing is
you.
all about.
Like, I'm not trying to be a
and then having
buzzkill.
the humor
Gosh.
built into
But
it.
it's just, it's
No,
too
no,
much.
'cause
It was funny when he
tampon,
sat on the deck chair.
ladies.
That was all well and good.
Like,
but we
I've-
don't have to go and paint it.
Like I've gone to a handful, a lot of other short tracks, and I hear some of their local announcers and how they talk, and a lot of them turn it into like a circus act, and I'm like,
Right.
and maybe because
And
Wall
they don't
Stadium,
talk like about their mother and quarters.
Eric
but I-
Brennan
yeah.
always
But-
has my back.
maybe because
I
Wall
love
Stadium
you.
is so
And you're
different, and because it is so fast, it is so treacherous.
Yeah.
I just can't help but look at it as like these guys are putting their lives on the line, and I mean we saw proof of that transition. Peter Bruno had one of the worst legend car wrecks I've ever seen
We'll get
at
into
the
that
track.
in a
I
minute.
would have screamed like a girl if you were off air and that fly landed on my hand, but because we were rolling and live, I had to play it off like it was not a big deal. So just want to throw that out there.
I had to
but,
man up.
but Peter Bruno had one of the worst legend car wrecks I've ever seen, ever. In
Can
real
we get to
person
this in the next
or-
segment?
Yeah, do we really need a
Yeah.
break?
I don't think so. I said we just roll right through it.
Fine.
So,
All right, fine.
Okay, so then,
The shout out. We got to do that.
I just.
oh yeah,
I really
shout
want
out
to.
to all my buddies that I actually started listening to this with last year. So hope you guys are being safe.
Listening
And
to what?
The RPM podcast.
Oh, okay.
the rabbit.
That's awesome.
Tricks are for kids.
But all right, so now that we're talking about local, kind of part of the open wheel, I was up at Chemung for the TQ race.
How was it?
Honestly, the race in the front, Tidman's dominating the scene by far. And the racing.
Why doesn't she have a mic?
Every time I watch, he's winning. There you go. I just don't bother anymore.
So the racing wasn't even towards the front.
Shy.
Of the,
Well, at least take mine because I don't even.
the racing wasn't even
Oh
at the
yeah,
front of the
that
pack.
probably would have been smart.
Oh God,
I
we're
like-
having
like
a
playing
we're having a
headset
mid-show
shuffle.
headset
all right,
change.
Here you go. We got it.
The
We're
racing
good.
was
We
actually
probably should have taken a break, but I just figured
Yeah, we
I was late
probably
enough.
should've.
Let's roll
Yeah.
with it.
It's okay.
It's already 10:34, Mr. Late.
Sorry.
I get to be at the hospital bright and early tomorrow.
Oh.
So what are we
Good
talking
stuff.
about?
Don't kill the mood.
all right. So
Leukemia.
the racing wasn't actually at the front of the pack. It was actually towards the back of the pack. Now,
Usually.
I was up there. I was helping out the Mullins with their TQs, and the heat races were actually really good. Like Chemung's is high banks. They're fast. They didn't have wings when they should have. Cole, personally, Cole bottomed out in his heat race, and it bent the rotor, and his caliper got torn off. I'm sorry about that, folks.
Call
And-
it.
And so we had to redo the brake system for the rear of his car, but so I kind of missed the ending of the first heat. but the second heat was phenomenal. The racing was close. It's probably the closest I've seen it all season with them. And then we get to the feature. Why were you just tapping on the mic?
Continue.
I don't know what just happened.
It was my ring. He's being dramatic.
No, I was really curious.
Yo, keep talking.
All right, so
All right. So the racing for the feature was actually really good. Congratulations to Ryan Tidman on the win, and Joey Bailey. I'm sorry you got second yet again, but
I did see
Yo, I
that.
really feel bad for that kid. It's always second. He like never wins. Like I really feel bad.
He's having it up and down. I mean, that again.
I love
Back
you,
to the
Joey.
first segment. Like you want to finish second and be humble, but at some point
it gets old.
I'm
It
just
does
waiting for
get
him to
old.
like bug one day. Just burp.
Yeah.
What do you mean one day that's happened?
I'm just like no. Wait,
But
come on.
so where the racing really was towards the back of the pack in the father-son team of Cole and Ronnie Mullen. Ronnie ended up kind of getting chopped by Neely, where Neely's left rear hit his right front, and Ronnie spun. So Ronnie ended up in the back, and he raced up and got behind Cole. And for the final 10 laps, he was not able to pass Cole one bit. I was probably the most proud I've ever been of Cole because that was the best driving I've seen anyone do.
It's kind of cool to see somebody who cut their teeth in the quarter midget ranks, and Ronnie's been racing around Wall Stadium Speedway for quite some time, and to watch them be able to propel themselves up into what they're doing now is kind of fun to see, and it's even when they come back home to Wall, it's really cool. And I hope that they're able to continue that on as they continue to race against one another. I mean, anytime you see a father and son duo duke it out on the track and stuff, it's usually a good time until they tangle. You know it's coming. You know that day.
It was so close each and every lap.
So, Will, you got yourself a ride. You got a couple races coming up. You want to run those down real quick for us?
All right, so I run the Champ Kart pretty much full-time at Wall right now for Bob DePonte.
Okay.
But I personally own my own Champ Kart that is set up for indoor season, and I cannot wait for indoor season. I have Cole Mullen will be my teammate. He's running my second kart, and there's so much going on with this indoor season that a lot of people are going to be surprised
Those
with.
are 4 races instead of 3, right?
Yup.
And then Triton's turning into dirt. I think it's pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, they'll be running 600 micro sprints on there.
Yeah, but see, like I
They're
don't like
running other
dirt racing, and like I feel like I'm gonna have to wear a mask because it's gonna be so dirty.
It'll be tacky, like when they run.
Clay, and they're gonna do it like the Chili Bowl,
Sure.
where there's multiple trucks out in between each races.
Are there companion races to the 600 cc's?
I haven't read yet, so it's I'd have to catch up on that.
Yeah, from the emails I've been getting about the indoor series, they're supposed to be.
Okay.
So that's why.
I mean, it would be a lot of effort to put all that dirt down and groom that track and only have one
class.
Yeah.
Honestly, that would probably defeat the purpose of
Stupid,
it.
yeah.
And then, of course, we have the Gamblers Classic in Atlantic City at the end of January.
What you will be working on my car for.
Yep.
I cannot wait.
I can't wait for that either. I think we're going to go down for the whole weekend.
Yes, the whole weekend.
It's going to be
I will be down there from Wednesday night on.
Okay. Good.
So, and then we also have Allentown, which we actually got a second day for, so it will now be the 5th and 6th.
Okay, good.
And then
good.
Albany, I believe, is the weekend of the 8th
Yeah, that's
of
way too
February.
far.
I feel like that's going to be Super Bowl weekend. I'm not sure. In fact, now
Either
I'm
way,
but
I don't
who would
care.
watch that?
I hate football so much.
Thank you.
I would still go racing.
The vast majority of race fans are also football fans.
Eagles.
But
I don't know
they
why.
all
And
would
plus,
pick
you're
a
not
race.
catering to the racers. You're catering to people going to sit in the grandstands.
Actually, this Albany race is more catered to the racers because you have the racers like Ted Christopher, Eric Rudolph, all want that home race, and that's what this is for them.
Of course, the one time I want my phone to load something, it's just not going to pop up. But it'll happen eventually. We talked about it earlier. The wreck that Peter Bruno had, the Legend car.
That was so scary.
It was.
That was the scariest thing I've ever seen.
Hey, I saw a clip of the video, and that was
the
That-
worst legend mark I've ever seen.
There's a couple of videos that are out there. Jim Murdoch sent me his copy, but he hasn't put a highlight video together just yet, so I don't know.
I saw Robert French's onboard, and oh my god,
That-
I've been
that was
through some
nuts.
flips in my life, and oh my god, that looked terrible.
That
Well,
was
the-
my father. I was crying.
The frightening thing was he hit the guardrail upside down, which I've never seen a car take an impact like that. It was a direct 45-degree angled shot upside down. So he doesn't have the protection of the lower chassis. All it had was just the roof of the car. So that was just frightening, absolutely frightening. But Peter ended up being okay. Peter said he was a little bit sore, but for the most part, it took him a little while to catch himself. Flash fire underneath the hood of the car. Wall Stadium Speedway track safety crew got there, extinguished it right away. Best in the business, hands down. I think I tried. I had the privilege of being able to call a lot of that night, and I think I had the privilege of being able to give them the credit they're due. Mm-hmm. But with that, winners on the night so far. I just want to run through this as fast as I can. Andrew Krause ended up getting a second win in a modified. Great feature event that was. The first modified feature of 2 40-lappers sponsored by Pete and Elders. Derek Hopkinson held off Krause, stopped him from being able to pull off the sweep. In the factory stock feature, the first one that we had, Joey Helberg ended up walking away with the win because Joe Mondra refused to go to Tech, and that also...
He's won enough.
That
I've raced with him long enough.
I stand corrected. Helberg won that first feature outright. Monjo got the DQ because he refused to go to Tech after winning the second factory stock event, which gave Bob Haverstick Jr. his second win of his career.
Right.
And also in the Legend Car event, it was Mike Alcaro who ended up winning again for the 4th time.
And you got lucky with the weather Saturday night, too, because, I mean, it wasn't looking great in the morning.
It did not look good.
It didn't look great like the whole 6 days before the race day.
Yeah.
It was a rainy, nasty week, and that included Saturday morning. Don't, you heathen, shut your mouth.
Yeah, there are chances of showers this Saturday.
Well, I'm going to be there.
As long as it's clear on Saturday, I'm okay. I finally get to get back in the cart.
But,
I'm sure the points
You're
leader
racing
wants
next
rain.
year's on a Sunday.
I'm hoping to be up in the booth hanging out with you on Saturday night, assuming all goes well.
Yeah, it'll be the first time we could have you back at the track since since everything you've had to go through. So I'm hoping that comes to fruition.
Yep.
We're also going to have a helmet drive throughout the grandstand and pit area for Josh and his family as he continues to collect for medical expenses as he continues his fight against APL leukemia. Also, these wristbands that you see here will be available in the pit trailer with a donation bucket. I asked for a minimum, like $3 donation, but you can just do whatever you want. You want to take some, spread the word, share the GoFundMe page. We'll call it even. Whole bunch of cool things that will be going on, and we'll keep that posted.
It's going to be a good show. We got a lot of divisions running.
Yeah, pretty much almost every we're rescheduling Napa night. Thank you, Hannah.
I cannot wait.
Also,
I got too much prep to do.
There's a couple other things that will be going on. I think we have almost every single regular season division in action for their regular races, and it will be cone races as well, which is always a good time. So a lot of things to look forward to this Saturday night. For more information, visit wallspeedwayracing.com. Also, thank you to Jeff Gravatt, who was one of the best people that I've had a chance to work with in quite some time. I don't get to spend a lot of time in the booth with Jeff, but with Earl and Gary both being out, we had a blast. And if you want to talk about somebody who knows how to interject or inject like witty conversation and puns and jokes into an auto racing platform, it was great.
No.
It just popped in there.
Not like that. Not like that.
Hey, Eric, nice hat you're wearing.
Thank you so much, Sam. It's about time that I finally wore it out in the open.
Any of you guys who are watching on YouTube, we have the RPM podcast hats for sale.
Contact us. Message us Facebook
Yes.
or
The
somewhere.
more people that want one, the cheaper we can get them. So spread the word.
And I got to get
Please.
more medium T-shirts, Stephen Reed. So
Yes.
and female T-shirts.
He had a hard wreck on
Yeah.
Saturday.
Yeah, he ripped the guardrail in half, came right back out. I think he finished like top 5 with that car. I'm telling you, everything is a blur because that entire night was so hectic but fun. Just fun. I had such a good time.
I saw a few pictures of you from that,
Yeah, on his Instagram.
I got a few nice Snapchats that night.
Of what? I don't
Oh,
remember
boy.
any of this.
This
at
is going
all.
south fast.
Anyway, so we'll be back at Wall this Saturday.
Yep.
Napa night.
Yep.
I'm
Cone
excited.
races.
Yep.
Josh's helmet drive.
Yep.
Yay.
What more can you ask for?
That's it.
I'm just going to...
And that's what I want to say. I'm supposed to be going to Stafford on Friday with Andrew Krause's modified team. Just kind of hang out and oversee a lot of that. First time going to Stafford. Ronnie Buck is the one who invited me, actually. So grateful for that opportunity. If it comes to fruition, because I think I have to work like 20 hours tomorrow. Pumped. So let's see if I survive.
Oof.
So it'd be
And you'd probably get here earlier than you did today.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, still. Definitely would. I'm late for work too, so it's not. It's
Oh,
not.
my God.
No, I read a story. Hold on, Google it, and then I'll leave you on this. I read a
here we
story
go.
that people who are in fact tardy, whether it be for school, work, or other occasions, in fact are said to have a more creative and active mind.
That's because they're
Wait,
that's 'cause they're
hang on.
unemployed.
But where is your
Just saying.
creativity?
It's
Up his ass. That's why they're unemployed. That's why they're so creative. They have time
Oh,
to
you
sit
mean
down
anal?
and talk about crap.
all right. So.
Close the damn show.
On behalf of Hannah and Will, thank you two for joining us, making this a little bit fun. Sam, who I think is just about worn out. Josh for handling all the bells and whistles. Nick for providing all of our European flair. And my late self for just making us all hang out here till about 11 o'clock at night.
6 o'clock, my ass.
Thank you for listening to the RPM podcast. We'll see you next week, or we'll see you at Wall Stadium Speedway this Saturday.
Go to Wall.